What's going on, guys? Good morning. This is a 2012 Audi Q5. This had secondary air injection codes. Basically how these Audis work is there's a pump on the passenger front area up here that supplies fresh air to the backside of the cylinder heads. And then there's a port that goes through the cylinder heads on the exhaust runner side, on the exhaust outlet side. That port supplies air through a channel. As the tubes go to the back of the cylinder head on the passenger side and the driver's side, let's go outside and look real quick. Here's one, the engine's no good on it, junk. But on the back side of the cylinder head, right here, there's a port on this side, which would be the driver's side, and then there's a port on the other side, right there. What the fuck's that? Here is one. And then the other one. Is it that one? The other one goes to the back of this diaphragm here. And what that does is there's a channel. This port here feeds this channel, and inside this channel, this port here is ported to the exhaust outlet. I can put my finger in here and feel where that port goes over into the exhaust as it's coming out, and it introduces air into the exhaust stream as it's going through the exhaust for emissions purposes. Well, those ports get plugged up, and down inside here, carbon gets built up all the way through that channel, and it blocks those ports. In the cylinder head, and the secondary air injection can't do its job by introducing air into the exhaust stream before it makes its way out of the exhaust. And it helps with emission stuff, fresh oxygen in the harmful exhaust leaving the, this one would go here. So there would be one part of the secondary air injection going there and one part of the secondary air injection going there. And it just clogs shit up inside that cylinder head, and it can't introduce fresh air into the system. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either pull the exhaust manifolds inside the chassis, lift the engine up some and lay them back and try to rod with some kind of device, but it's so tight you can barely not even get back inside this thing. I mean, you play hell just trying to fish it out, and guys have done it and they say it's an absolute nightmare cleaning those ports out with dropping the exhaust manifold and trying to make some kind of makeshift tool to get back in there and clean it all out. But what you need to know about this engine is, let's just say you get the front clip and everything off of that Audi Q5. There are some ports that you can access that give you cleaning ability. Here, it's a freeze plug. You can pull this freeze plug out of here, and there's a power steering pump and coolant hoses and stuff that block this. And then there's another freeze plug on the other side here that you can pop that freeze plug out of there, or just plug, whatever you want to call it. Not freeze plug, it's just, they're just plugs. You can pop those two plugs out, one on each side, and you can rod that port and get as much carbon out as you possibly can. But if you don't get that channel free from the exhaust passage into where the valve moves up and down, you're just wasting your time. So what my guys did was, my guys said, fuck it, we're not gonna mess with it in chassis. We're gonna pull it out of there and just pull the whole damn engine out on a cherry picker and just rod every single port until it's all clean, and then rod the ports from front to back until it's all clean. Not trying to take a chance for anything. And now they got the engine put back in Friday. Now they're getting ready to finish putting everything back together. And it's a common problem on these Audis. The V6s mainly. Is that carbon passage, or that secondary air injection passage getting plugged up with carbon, because the exhaust makes its way back in there and basically soots up the passage for the secondary air injection. So before you buy an Audi Q5 or whatever, this is a 3.2 Quattro, I think, Audi Q5 3.2. Before you buy an Audi V6 that has a secondary air injection system, make sure you do your homework first, because this may be something that you have to end up having to pay with a motor pool on this, $2,500 to clean those passages. You're paying the labor of basically replacing a long block. Think about it. Is Audi really worth owning? Think about that. So I actually wanted to add a little bit more to it. I was going to end the video there, but I was like, you know what? What if somebody watches this video and they think this is Bible? The only reason you would do this cleaning is if the pump itself is not working, if there's no malfunction with the other components that are part of the air injection system. If those are functioning fine and you can hear the pump running and there's no leaks in the lines or whatever where the air can't get back there to those vacuum operated diaphragms, then the system needs to be cleaned. And typically it's set with a P0491, P0492 code pretty much set together. In the computer there is some areas that talk about looking at some values. Like if you go into the control module and you select mass MASS underscore SA underscore REL0 and mass underscore SA underscore REL1, perform the test, press the brake and gas pedal at the same time, start the test on Otis on the Audi tester, and while basic setting is test running, check if the secondary air injection pump is it runs normally. No unusual noises. In addition, check for the leaks in the hoses like I was just talking to you about. And immediately after this test is complete, read the mass underscore SA underscore REL0 and mass underscore SA underscore REL1. Depending on software level and engine code, the air mass flow will be displayed in one of two ways. And one way is the style that you get a good reading from, which is the value will be between 0.1 and 0.7. If the value is between 0.1 and 0.7, there were no issues with the pump and hoses. The system needs to be cleaned. That's what I just talked to you about. Some people pull the engine, some people leave it in. Honestly, I would think that you wouldn't get as clean a job and thorough a job if you leave it in. We pull the system here. And then for the newer software versions, the value will be between 13 and 16. So, and that's if there's no issues with the pump and the hose routing. Another thing to add to it is most guys are saying the turbo versions of the V6 normally don't have the problem. They can, but they normally don't have the problem. Most of the time it's the naturally aspirated V6 engines that have this system online that have problems with secondary air injection. So mostly non-turbo and almost always the naturally aspirated V6. Another thing that we didn't talk about either is the tool. What type of tool was used? Well, we ended up getting just a small brake line that will fit inside that. There was the smallest brake line we could find. It was tiny. And we crushed the end of it and frayed it a little bit, and then we just rotted it down that port with a drill. And we crushed about 2 or 3 inches of the end of that brake line and kind of scored it up a little bit with a cutter, like a cutoff wheel, and just scored it up, put some little slits in it, and just ran it back and forth. And you could just see all the carbon getting pulled out of this thing, just falling out of the front, the back. It was nasty. Anyway, got it all cleaned out, got every side port cleaned. The side ports, I think we used a drill bit nice and easy and cleaned that out. And that's how we got the system clean, because of the 491, 492 code. You got to make sure everything's working first before you go that route. That's the best way to do it. Audi actually has a TSB on this, but the number's like 1,000 numbers long, and I'm not posting it here. Most of you that are watching this video are not dealer techs anyway, and it is what it is. You can find it. Audi TSB for secondary air injection, P0491, P0492, and that'll give you what you need if you want specifics. But this is the gist of what you need to do.